Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is D100 Superfan here with the D100 Dungeon Closer Look Spellbook, Scrolls, and Table S. Magic in D100 Dungeon, whether it's spells cast from a spell book or from a scroll, magic spells are essentially how you bend the game rules, essentially hack into the matrix in D100 Dungeon. With spells, adventurers are able to do all kinds of awesome effects beyond what is capable through an adventurer's usual actions. These enhanced awesome spell effects can include doing damage during combat, enhancing a player's characteristics, being able to cast healing or defensive spells, of course, offensive spells, and the wonderful, wonderful utility spells such as open magic. Oh my goodness, with the spells at your command, the laws of reality are yours to bend at your whim. An adventurer skilled in the arcane will have reliable access to spells through their access to the spell book. Adventurers with at least 50 in the intelligence score unlock the spellcaster ability, allowing them to use spells from the spell book once they have been acquired and added to a slot in the spell book. Spells must be added to the spell book in the order in which they are acquired, and each spell slot imparts a different bonus or penalty depending on where it is in the spell book. Taking a look at the spell book, we can see that the first few spells require a level of 50 plus in the intelligence score in order to use the first few spell slots of the spell book. We can see the top slot of the spell book, the first slot of the spell book, imparts a plus 20 bonus to the spell cast test, thereby increasing the chances that you will be able to successfully cast that spell. We can see the next two spell slots in the spell book impart a plus 15 and a plus 10 bonus to the spell test, respectively. That means that the earlier spells added to the slot are easier to cast, as they impart a larger bonus, starting with plus 20 and working their way to plus 0 in the 50 intelligence range. If a player was to add a sixth spell to the spellbook, in order to use it, the player would need at least 60 intelligence. As we can see, the sixth spell slot in the spell book imparts a -0 penalty, but requires 60 plus intelligence in order to use the spell in that slot. The takeaway here being that spells added early to the spell book impart a larger bonus and are therefore easier to cast and more likely to be successfully cast than those spells added later to the spell book. The sequence in which a magic user's spells are entered into the spellbook will have an effect on when and how an adventurer uses magic and how they navigate the dungeon. For instance, a player with utility spells such as open magic and skilled earlier in their spellbook will find themselves navigating and exploring the dungeon with confidence, as they are more easily able to handle the magically sealed doors and geographic challenges that would turn away other adventurers. An adventurer with invisibility and clumsy at the top of their spellbook will find themselves being able to pick and choose their battles, using invisibility to outright leave the battle where an escape check may be more likely to fail, or using the clumsy spell early in a fight you do choose to fight to give yourself an advantage for the entire fight. Good strategy, spellcaster. Spells can be a great way to deal damage in combat as well. Being able to roll a D10 for damage that bypasses an enemy's defense with debuffs to the enemy and bonuses for the adventurer make the lightning and ice storm spells powerhouses against high defense foes. Scrolls are a great spell casting alternative for adventurers who do not have access to a spellbook. Though the adventurer will not receive a spellbook bonus or penalty for using them, scrolls are a great way for an adventurer to do a bit of minor spell casting as the situation permits. A scroll can also be a great find for a caster with an impressive repertoire of spells in their spellbook, as a scroll may grant one-time access to a spell in a right time, right place situation. Of particular note, the availability of the humble but ever useful Scroll of Open Magic is great news for every adventurer. Found on Table N, the prepared adventurer makes sure to grab at least one Scroll of Open Magic before heading down into the dungeon. At a modest cost of 200 gold pieces, they are affordable even at the early stages of an adventurer's career. Do not let a magically sealed door force you to have to backtrack, burning precious oil and supplies, often meeting with another random encounter before you get to a part of the dungeon with areas to explore. Always bring a scroll of open magic. Spells and scrolls are even useful to adventurers that lack the skills or desire to dabble in the arcane. Before each quest during the sell items phase, a player may choose to sell their scrolls for 200 gold pieces each, or the spells collected in their spellbook for a whopping 800 gold pieces each, for when the adventurer would rather die on a pile of gold pieces than use what the dungeon provides to succeed. I'm just kidding. Selling spells out of your spell book is a way for a character who's early in his dungeon delving career to generate a large amount of gold pieces quickly. This will allow an adventurer to gear up and stock up on supplies quickly. The question begs, where can an adventurer find spells? An adventurer seeking spells for their own spellbook or to sell back in town for great profits would do well to search rooms and seek out treasure table rolls, as spells can be found in Table F and tables Treasure A, Treasure B, and Treasure C. A scroll can be found on Table F, entry 4650, which is a minor prize, but still may be just the thing an adventurer needs to give themselves an edge in the spellcasting department. Entry 6165 offers a single spell from Table S. Table F entry 8185 is a great find, as that allows you to roll twice on Table S and add both spells to your spellbook. Bear in mind that should the player choose to sell the two spells at the first available opportunity, that's an easy 1,600 gold pieces. Wow! As mentioned, the treasure tables also contain spells. Treasure Table TA has a scroll at entry 7779. Table TB has a spell at entry 8688. And Table TC has a double spellbook entry at entry 94, allowing the adventurer to roll twice on Table S and add both spells to the spellbook to sell back in town for 1,600 gold. A sharp-eyed adventurer will also see an entry to roll once for a spell in entry 82 and Table B, Boosts. The Boosts table is rarely rolled. It's unlikely to get a spell that way, but it can happen and bears mentioning. Magic tuition is also available between quests, and an adventurer may, according to their rep value, roll a number of times equal to their rep value on Table S, and may choose one spell for the adventurer to learn, which costs 1,000 gold, and the player writes the spell in the next available slot in the spell book. A savvy adventurer may sell an undesirable spell or two out of their spell book in order to fund their magic tuition and acquire a new spell. This is a good way to cycle old spells out of the spell book and attempt to add new, more desirable spells to those spell slots. Something I haven't mentioned yet is a way to help offset the costs in hit points of casting spells. If an adventurer is able to bring in a full stock, which is to say a 10 quantity stack of potions of lesser healing, that each heal 4 hit points. Those can go a long way to helping an adventurer cast spells and recover out of combat, essentially turning health potions into quote-unquote mana potions in addition to their already useful healing effects. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video today, the D100 Dungeon Closer Look Spellbook, Scrolls, and Table S. In conclusion, the spellbook is awesome, and the spells added early to the spellbook, being much more successful and easier to cast, will probably be your bread and butter spells for that adventure. So be mindful of the spells added early. Scrolls are a very awesome and useful way to get some minor spell casting done and broaden your spell casting capabilities. And Table S, spells can be found in Table F, the Find table, and the 3 treasure tables, Treasure TA, Treasure Table TB, and Treasure Table TC. Because of the frequency of the spell result on the Find table, make sure you are searching red rooms and blue rooms especially. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks again so much for tuning in today, guys. This is D100 Superfan, and I just wanted to say spells are awesome. Spellcasters are awesome. Make one today. Make that your new character. One of the great things about D100 Dungeon is that each of the character classes, warrior, rogue, and sorcerer, all play completely different. And it's kind of a known thing that the spellcaster is, shall we say, hard mode in the base D100 Dungeon game. And it's definitely not easy. Once you get going, you become quite powerful, but getting there is quite a task. Understand that in the base game of D100, casters are a little more difficult, but their options expand greatly with the expansion content books, both Adventurer's Companion and Lost Tome of Rules, Extraordinary Tome of Lost Rules. Both add great rules and additions and systems to increase the caster's, not viability, they are always viable, but they're at different avenues of acquiring power through the witchery system and the advanced caster system. Witchery available in the Adventurer's Companion and the advanced caster system available in Lost Tome of Extraordinary Rules. And it should be noted, to gain access to the advanced caster system, a spellcaster needs to pass a test in order to gain entry into one of the various orders of magic to gain access to that order's exclusive spells. Each order has their own spell list. It's actually quite awesome, and an adventurer must be able to pass that test. So there are prerequisites, but if you start building your caster character now, you should be able to, by the time you get access to the content, dive straight into the magic orders. It is possible to roll a character that is nearly able to just dive right into the advanced caster system, though you will need a minimum of 5 spells and be able to cast those 5 spells, 5 different spells in order to get to the caster system. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Thank you so much, Mr. Martinite, for making this awesome game for all of us to enjoy. And a special shout out to YouTube user Juan B for his great questions in the comment section of a previous video. I know when I respond to the comments, I tend to, instead of writing a comment in reply, I typically reply with a symposium. But I'm trying to be as informative, especially about questions regarding purchases of D100 Dungeon content. I do plan on making a purchase priority video, so you can make decisions regarding which purchases to make when in regards to D100 Dungeon content, and that is coming soon. In the meantime, thank you so much, and play more D100 Dungeon. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Any art, fiction, or stories, puzzles related to D100 Dungeon, whatever you would like, please forward to d100superfan@gmail.com, and hopefully we can get a featured fiction section going. I'm gonna send you guys out with a fireball.